Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Highlander Hoops Weekly. I'm your host, Chris Stoner. We'll be airing the show every Monday night here on our Twitter channel at FCHS_hoops. Each week, we're joined by Coach Sturgeon, along with a player feature, and this week, we're joined by Senior Evan Nichols. Highlander Hoops Weekly, proudly sponsored by the Pete Palmer Law Office, located at Scribner Drive in New Albany. Pete Palmer Law, a proud supporter of Floyd Central basketball. The Highlanders 17-1 on the season, 6-0 in the Hoosier Hills Conference, currently ranked 4th in the state and riding a 10-game winning streak after a very tough 46-42 overtime victory at Bedford North Lawrence. That's Floyd Central's first win at Bedford in 10 years. And joined now by Coach Sturgeon. And Coach, if you could enlighten us a little bit about that Bedford game. A long trip on a Thursday night, so not all of the Highlander faithful able to make it up there to Bedford. An overtime win, a game you had to come back in the second half. Tell us a little bit about that victory.
Well, as you mentioned, you kind of set the table for it there. They're having a really good season. I can't remember now exactly what their record is, but something like 12-5 or something in that range. They only had one conference loss going into that game. They have a team of some really good guards. They're an undersized team. So like a 6'2" and under nightmare for us because of our size. They spread us out and were really patient. They had 3 possessions over a minute and several others in that 40-second plus range. And so we had a hard time getting the ball out of their hands, and we knew it was going to be a difficult game. Midweek game, going up there. They're an improving team. We're trying to get over the psychological hurdle of the fact that we gave them the worst loss in the program's history the previous year. And knowing that game was a little bit of a freaky result, they shot it. They were coming in a shooting slump, couldn't make a shot, and we got on a roll, and the game just escalated out of control. We're trying to get past that psychological hurdle to know that this game's not going to be anything like that. They're better this year. They're at home, and they're going to dictate tempo. And so it was a tough game for us. We got behind. We were down at halftime. Came back and defended really well in that game. I mean, exceptionally well in the second half and overtime. And Brendan Hobson was phenomenal. He must have defended 6 or 7 shots where they either blocked them or forced a miss when he's jumping and they're having to go extra arc over his length. And we felt like we had fought back and had the game under wraps. We had a 7-point lead in the ball with about 2:05 left. That's usually lights out time when we're in that situation. And we just got a little loose with the ball, missed a couple of front ends, and the Bailey kid hit a circus shot to force overtime, although we had 1.8 seconds left, and he was able to, we were able to throw a length of the court, the Valpo play, and Kobe kicked it out to Brendan, and we almost walked off with a game winner. We got an really open shot, and then went to overtime, and it was a tough overtime. We jumped out to lead. They got it back. We got the lead, and they actually had a shot with under 40 seconds left to take the lead, and we fortunately got a miss, and the big man here, I think, got the rebound in that situation, and we were able to get out of Lawrence County without losing our scalp, fortunately.
Coach, I think a lot of people are a little surprised when they see or hear about teams that want to slow it down so much against Floyd Central, because a lot of people may think, like the way you describe Bedford, that they just want to speed it up.
Well, they do against everybody else.
Try to outrun the big guys. Does that surprise you all in a way that, as good as your defense has been and the way you can dominate inside, especially rebounding, that teams will want to slow it down against you instead of speed it up?
Well, but they've seen what has happened to teams that have tried to. I mean, they have coaches who prepare and look at film, and most of the time, teams that speed it up against us have not had a good result. And that I've got a buddy of mine that has watched us play, and he said if there was a 30-second shot clock, they could hand you guys the state championship trophy. Now, I don't know that that's true, but the point is it's hard to get a good quick shot against us most of the time. And so what they're saying is we're just going to reduce the number of possessions, add a little choke element into this so that maybe Floyd's not playing free and easy on offense. And it's a classic ploy going back to guys my age can remember Villanova and Georgetown 100 years ago, and when they pulled a great upset against that Patrick Ewing team with all that length, so
they shot 72% that game though too.
By spreading the floor and driving those bigs
right.
and being extremely patient, and that's what they were trying to do. They actually were. It wasn't like they were standing four corners and holding it. They would just probe, kick it out, and keep looking for a drive. And they took us right to the limit for sure.
Well, Coach, last week we talked about this rare, odd 9-day stretch you're in here from the Bedford game February 1st. Your next game will be this Saturday at Evansville-Harrison on the 10th. So you've got a 9-day stretch here. I think you gave the team off Friday, if I remember right. And then you go into a weird stretch from the 10th to the 21st to ending your season. You have 5 games in 12 days. So how have you guys figured out how to handle this 9-day stretch in between games and then vaulting right into a stretch almost like an NBA schedule with so many games in less than 2 weeks?
Well, we don't know yet whether we have figured out how to handle it. The jury is out on that one. So our thinking is, let's take a couple of days here over the weekend. We were off Friday, came in Saturday, but we shot, lifted, and looked at film. Sunday's mandatory off with the IHSAA, and then came back in today and worked and lifted again. And so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is going to be kind of a mini camp of us getting ourselves squared away. We keep saying our defense has been good. We want it to be great. Our offense has been good. We got to go to another level. We've got to, be more efficient in several different places, and so hopefully we have a 3-day training camp here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we have Thursday and Friday to prep for the next game. But really, all these games up until the Columbus East game, which is conference championship game, these other games in between are really us focusing a lot less on scouting than we normally do, and much more on us and our preparation and us getting better. And so we'll see if we can pull that off.
Coach, you mentioned something there about your defense that a lot of listeners may perk up and have kind of a what's he talking about moment, that it needs to go from good to great. And when you look at the numbers, just giving up 45 per game, holding a lot of teams under 40, you just look since January 5th, and there's only been one game that you've allowed a team to score 50 or more. So could you elaborate a little bit on, and Evan may be wondering here, what's Coach talking about? We've been pretty darn good. But could you elaborate on this has only been good or high good and what you need to do to get to great?
Well, I just think we're capable of more, and we need more. I mean, this group of seniors say they want to win a state championship. Well, obviously, since we have 2 of the top 10 teams in the state that we're going to have to play against in the sectional, that might be for the state championship. I mean, you don't know where this is going to fall, but you can certainly make that. I know one thing, whoever's good enough to win our sectional is good enough to compete for the state championship. And so that's what we're talking about. Like, we got to be that good, and we haven't been. Trust me. We won at Bedford, and the guys are in the midst of a 76 clip breakdown of our mistakes that they've been looking at. We've had 2 film sessions so far, and we haven't gotten all the way through it. So that's now, some of that's offense. That's not 76 defensive errors. But our defense has been good. Our rebounding has been great. That's the thing that's been great. That's been the difference maker for us. And we don't force as many. We need to force more turnovers, and we need to cut down our turnovers. And it's not like we got to shave 7 turnovers, and we got to, what we need to be able to do is force 2 or 3 more and make 2 or 3 less. then that flips with our rebounding. Now we've got such a gap in possessions that it's some place where we can have some margin of error in how we shoot the ball or whatever.
Looking at your upcoming games, Saturday the trip to Evansville Harrison, then a weekday game at home with a very good Brownstown team who's 13-4. Harrison, by the way, 12-6 on the year. Then a trip over to St. X with, I know you just said that the rest of the season you're going to be focusing more on what you guys do than maybe scouting, but when you look at some of the upcoming teams, a long trip to Harrison against a good athletic team, could compare to, just a tough environment to play in. Maybe like a sectional. Brownstown's very good and can score a lot of points, like a New Albany. And going to St. X, they're going to be big and athletic. And
senior night.
And senior night at St. X. And they can battle you on the boards like a Jeffersonville. Is that something that you and your staff may sprinkle in just to remind guys that, hey, they compare a little bit to a New Albany, a little bit to a Jeff, a little bit to somebody that we're going to have to play in sectional?
Absolutely. The Duncan kid coming up here at Harrison, and you're going to have to bear with me here because I said that we've been focusing on us, so we haven't really started the scouting, and they've got another really good guard who is quick and athletic and scores 15 plus. And so they will be like guys who were, maybe not exactly, but Duncan's a point guard that's hard to guard off the dribble, and they spread us out, and he drives and kicks to shooters and can finish himself. And so anyway, absolutely, we'll be trying to find things like that to prep us and get us ready, and also maybe experimenting a little bit. We still haven't got our rotations off the bench where it's exactly where we want it. And, we've experimented with the jumbo lineup with the 4-6-6 guys in there. And but sometimes teams play us really small to try to counter that. Like, well, our bigs are still not big enough, so let's play guards and make them. And sometimes it forces us to take Evan out just because of there's nobody left to guard sometimes with those guys. And not very many, it's nothing against Evan, not very many 6'7" bigs can come out and defend, and we're switching, and so then you get switched to him onto the other team's point guard, and so that's a difficult thing for guys to do in that 5-out type of offense that some teams have run against us. And so anyway, we're gonna do some experimentation with lineup and different things over the next couple of weeks, and see if we can find that magic formula.
Well, again, the Highlanders' next game will be Saturday night at Evansville Harrison. And speaking of a member of that jumbo lineup that Coach talked about, here's the Highlanders' biggest big guy, Evan Nichols, joining us. Evan, thanks so much for taking the time here after Monday practice to join us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate it. And, that's always something I want to talk about. A lot of times guys are listed, a little taller than they really are, and some guys want to be listed. I think Kevin Durant always wants to be listed a little shorter than he is for some reason, but he's at least 7 foot. So who is the tallest on the team if we stood you guys back to back?
That would definitely be me.
Definitely. Now, does that factor in Kobe's hair?
Yes, that does factor in.
Still factors in Kobe's hair. Okay, well, I'm not sure he'd agree with that, but anyway. Well, hey, let's get to know Evan Nichols a little more here on our player feature on Highlander Hoops Weekly. So you've got some things here on our questionnaire filled out. Your favorite school subject is math.
Yes.
Is that something, early on, kids love coloring and art when they're in elementary, and then it changes? Has math always been your favorite?
Math has always been my favorite growing up.
Is that from your parents, or it's just been your
That's
thing?
just from being in school, and I just always loved numbers and figuring out equations and problems.
Good enough. Other sports you play, you enjoy volleyball.
Yes.
Do you play in any kind of organized league?
We actually have a club volleyball now here at Floyd Central. It's been going on for about 2 years now, and it's getting bigger. There are a lot more kids trying out, a lot more boys, and they're really enjoying it, and it is a great thing to have. And a lot of the girls volleyball players are also helping us out with that, make us better.
Yeah, now the men's net, a lot of people don't know, is considerably higher than the ladies' net. So you never have any extra fun, do you, and play on the ladies' net, being at 6'7", do you?
Sometimes we do.
But you got to jump from behind the 10-foot line if you do it right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Hobbies, coin collecting. That's interesting. I'm kind of a coin collector myself. Is there any certain coin that you like the best?
There's not a certain coin I like the best. I just love collecting all of the older ones and rare ones. That's something I got from my grandpa.
Favorite TV show? We're right on the same track here. Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So, favorite character from Game of Thrones?
Let's see. There's so many good ones.
You can't go wrong if you say Daenerys.
I'm going to say this, and everyone's going to hate me, but Cersei.
Cersei, the other queen.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll edit that out. No worries. Favorite movie, Avengers. Wow, I feel like you're my lost son here. That's good stuff. Who's your favorite Marvel character?
Oh, definitely Tony Stark.
Good enough. Billionaire, philanthropist, playboy. You can't go wrong with that. Favorite food is pizza.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite place you like your pizza from?
Pizza King. I prefer all the meats on it. It's the best.
All the meats, Pizza King. Good stuff. We've got here something fans may not know about you. While playing ball, your dad has always been there for you.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't think about, and that some kids don't have. Is they don't have parents that always back them up in the things they do or encourage the things they do. And my dad and my mom as well have always been there for me to help encourage and support me. And anytime I want to go to the gym, Dad will willingly get up and he'll come with me, shoot, rebound, teach me. And that's a big thing for me. That's something that back in his day when he was a kid, he was a great ball player, but he never really had the support from his parents. It's not that they didn't care, it's just they didn't support him as much as he supports me, and that's a big factor of how I am today.
Great stuff. Get your favorite game of the year, like a lot of guys have had the New Albany game, but you played just spectacular. Not trying to inflate your ego there, but Coach talked about that right after the game, and he also mentioned last year the Castle game when they came in scoring seemed like 100 a game or whatever. They could really put some points on the board. You played really well in that game. Some guys get just extra nervous, and then that wears off going into a game. Do you have any explanation though for these bigger games, and you just seem to step up and have your best games?
The weirdest thing about all of those games is I did not get nervous. I wasn't jittery. I wasn't sweating. I was ready to play in those games. And I'll go into all these other games that, may not be the biggest game of the year, but I'll get nervous, I'll get jitters, and I'll be like, I need to eat something because I just can't wear off this feeling. But those games, I was just focused, ready to go, ready to play, and I knew what I needed to do.
Great stuff. Well, let's move on to a favorite memory of Coach Sturgeon. Usually these are just great, as long as we can make them G-rated, that is. You've got all of the locker room talks and post-game. Is there one that sticks out in your mind, or any famous quotes that you're going to put on your college room wall?
No famous quotes, but I remember last year going to Brownstown, and we'd won, and it was a hard-fought game. It was big game for Coach, and I remember as soon as Coach walked in, someone just had the idea to fill up water bottles, and as soon as Coach walked in, we just totally drenched him. And there was water everywhere, Coach was soaked, and instead of being mad or Debbie Downer, he was very happy and excited, and it was kind of the start of a new trend that we do. Providence for Miller, North Harrison for Coach Walters.
Good stuff. And you're right, because a lot of older coaches, could get really grumpy about that. I may get fired after that comment, by the way.
But young guys like me feel like they're just one of the guys there in that environment.
Just embrace that.
And I'm not worried about getting pneumonia in 15-degree weather outside with completely drenched clothing.
Right. It's another sacrifice he does for you guys. Just
yes, it is.
One of many.
We have a standing rule. If we get road wins over teams that are ranked in the top 10 in the state, they can drown me anytime.
Good enough.
They get a get-out-jail-free card anytime we do that, so I'm good with that.
Good enough. Well, plans after school, you plan to go to college. Have you limited down any choices?
I've not limited down to any choices. I plan on trying to stay engineering. I'm still open to many types of engineering, and accounting are the main things I'm looking for right now. But I just plan on going to college. I've applied to about 7 or 8 colleges and have received acceptance. Mainly from these colleges, I've gotten substantial money because of my academics, because I've kept good grades. I've taken hard classes, and they seem to like that. Good GPA, and also a good ball player. A lot of them also have ball interest in me. But it's mainly because my academics are so well, and I stick to the books and make sure I try and get good grades. And if there's a problem with some of my grades, talk to the teacher, get help.
Good stuff. Very good stuff, Evan. Well, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here because you just here by yourself. Seem like a soft-spoken guy. Funniest guy on the team. And if it's you, say it's you. But who's the funniest guy on the team?
Brendan.
Hobson?
Yes.
I kept hearing that. And he gave a pretty good player feature. Who's the loudest? Like, who just talks the most?
Weimer.
I could have guessed that one. Who's the quietest?
The thing is, it's also Brendan, but that's when he's not around us. When it's just us and not Coach there, he's
sneaky.
Definitely the loudest.
Sneaky, funny guy. Gotcha.
Yes.
Who's the biggest eater? Like somebody that's always snacking or's got food in their locker.
That'd be me.
That would be you. That's okay. That's not a bad thing at all. Who has the and if you can't get into details, that's totally fine. But who has the maybe weirdest pregame superstition?
Might be Matt.
And you probably don't want to tell us what that is, and that's fine. Not a problem. We don't need to know.
It's nothing bad. It's just
it's weird.
I mean, none of us really have a pregame thing, but Matt has his own thing. So,
gotcha. That's fine. No problem. I mean, it's Weimer. We can probably it's better that we just imagine what it is and leave it at that. So.
Plus, right now we're on a 10-game streak, so we don't talk about the streak.
We don't talk about that. Whatever you're doing is working. So great stuff. Well, Evan, thanks so much for joining us. I know Coach has always had great things to say about you. Coach, you want any comments on Evan before we close it out here?
Well, Evan, I'm so proud of him because how hard he works and how great of an attitude he has. He's a guy that's been moved around this year, and all big guys are often late bloomers. I don't know how many times, my son's included, as 5th and 6th graders, they're B-team guys, and so they just keep working and then blossom into. And then he's had this rare situation. I mean, he would be the starting center on like 396 teams in the state, but he's on a team that has all these other 6'6" guys that are going to play in college, and so. And sometimes we've started him, sometimes we've brought him off the bench, and his attitude when he's not starting, and when I go to him and say, "Hey, Evan, they're playing small. We don't have anybody for you to guard right now. I'm going to try to get you in there, but you may not be playing as much." He's yelling, cheering for the team, not pouting. I know he wants to play and feels like, well, Coach, if you put me in there at the other end, somebody's got to guard me,
right.
And which is true. But we've already got mismatches all over the place. So anyway, he's just a 10 out of 10 on attitude and pulling for the other guys on the team, and that's what's led to him continuing to improve and to, as you said, performing great in the biggest games and those types of things. So I'm really happy for the success he's having, and whoever gets him as a college coach is really going to get a guy that is moving, he's trending up and could just have a great college career.
Great stuff. Well, Evan Nichols, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to the game Saturday at Evansville-Harrison. Coach Sturgeon, thanks as always for joining us here on Highlander Hoops Weekly. Again, if you're not following us already on Twitter, please do at FCHS_hoops. For Evan Nichols and Coach Sturgeon, I'm Chris Stoner saying so long. Another edition in the books. Thanks so much to Pete Palmer Law for sponsoring our show and being a proud supporter of Floyd Central basketball. Be sure and catch the Highlanders Saturday night if you can make the trip to Evansville, take on a very good Harrison team. And their next home game will be February 13th, hosting Brownstown Central. For Evan and Coach, I'm Chris Stoner saying so long. We'll talk to you next Monday night.